One tiny ink mark can turn your favorite shirt, your child's school uniform, or a valuable fabric item into something you think is ruined forever. But before you throw it away, there is something you need to know. Ink stains are not always permanent. The real problem is that many people treat them the wrong way from the very beginning. They react quickly, but they use methods that can make the stain harder to remove. Today, we are going to look at one of the most common household problems and discover why some cleaning attempts fail while others create much better results. Emily Carter had seen this situation many times. As someone who loved finding practical home solutions, she knew that a simple ink stain could create unnecessary frustration. A few drops from a ballpoint pen could appear on a cotton shirt, a piece of fabric furniture, or a favorite item that someone wanted to keep. Many people immediately reached for water, soap, or whatever cleaning product was nearby. But ink does not behave like ordinary dirt. It is designed to stay on surfaces, which means removing it requires the right approach. Michael Anderson learned this lesson when a small accident left a noticeable ink mark on one of his favorite shirts. At first, he thought the solution would be simple. He tried wiping the area, hoping the stain would disappear quickly. Instead, the mark remained, and he realized that removing ink was more complicated than he expected. This was the moment Emily decided to test different methods carefully. Instead of relying on random advice from the internet, she wanted to understand what actually worked. She gathered common household items, tested different techniques, and paid close attention to the results. The goal was not to find a complicated or expensive solution. The goal was to discover a practical method that everyday homeowners could use. During her testing, Emily noticed something important. The first few seconds after an ink stain appears can make a big difference. The choices people make at that moment often determine whether the stain becomes easier or more difficult to handle. Rubbing too aggressively, using the wrong product, or ignoring the type of material could affect the final outcome. This was why understanding the basics mattered. Ink stains may look intimidating, but they follow certain patterns. Once you understand how they react, the cleaning process becomes much clearer. In the following tests, Emily would compare different approaches and reveal which methods were actually worth trying. Some popular tricks would disappoint, while another simple technique would create a result that surprised her. The question was no longer whether the ink stain could be removed. The real question was which method would prove to be the most effective, reliable, and practical solution for everyday homes. Before trying to remove an ink stain, many people make the same mistakes that can turn a simple problem into a much bigger challenge. The first reaction is usually to grab a towel, add water, and start rubbing as hard as possible. It feels natural because most everyday stains can be treated that way. However, ink is different. The way you respond in the first few moments can greatly affect the final result. Emily Carter discovered this while testing different cleaning methods at home. She wanted to understand why some popular tricks worked for certain people but failed for others. The answer was often not the cleaning product itself. It was the technique. One of the biggest mistakes people make is spreading the ink instead of removing it. When a fresh stain is rubbed aggressively, the ink can move deeper into the fabric fibers or spread into a larger area. Instead of solving the problem, the cleaning attempt creates more work. Another common mistake is using too much liquid too quickly. Many people believe that adding more water will automatically help, but ink and water do not always work well together. Depending on the type of material, excess moisture can make the stain more difficult to manage. Michael Anderson experienced this when he tried to clean the ink mark on his shirt without knowing the right approach. His first attempt did not remove the stain because he focused on speed instead of understanding the material and the ink. This is why Emily decided that a good cleaning method should begin with 3 simple questions. What type of material has the stain? How fresh is the ink mark? And what cleaning approach is safe for that surface? These questions helped her separate useful methods from unreliable ones. During her research, Emily also discovered that many online cleaning tips sound convincing, but do not always deliver consistent results. Some methods may work in one situation, but fail completely in another. A solution that helps with a cotton shirt may not be the best choice for a delicate fabric. Testing and understanding the reason behind each method became the key to finding a reliable solution. Another important lesson was patience. Many people expect an ink stain to disappear instantly, but effective cleaning often requires careful steps. The goal is not to force the stain away. The goal is to gradually loosen and remove it while protecting the material underneath. As Emily continued her experiments, she prepared to compare several popular methods side by side. She wanted to see which ones actually performed well and which ones were only popular because they sounded simple. The results would reveal an important truth about home cleaning. The best solution is not always the most expensive product or the most complicated technique. Sometimes, the most effective method comes from understanding the problem and using the right steps in the right order. After understanding the common mistakes people make with ink stains, Emily Carter was ready to begin the next stage of her experiment. Instead of relying on one quick solution, she decided to compare several popular cleaning methods and observe how each one performed. Her goal was simple: find a method that was practical, affordable, and realistic for everyday homes. She wanted to know which techniques could actually help people instead of creating more frustration. The first step was preparation. Emily selected different fabric samples, including cotton materials similar to everyday shirts and household items. She created small ink marks on each piece so she could test the methods under similar conditions. This allowed her to compare the results fairly and understand which approaches worked best. The first few tests showed an important lesson. Not every method that sounds effective delivers the same outcome in real situations. Some approaches appeared promising at first, but produced limited improvement. Others required too many steps or created concerns about protecting the original material. Emily carefully recorded each result because she wanted to focus on methods that people could confidently try at home. Michael Anderson followed the experiment closely because he wanted to know if the same techniques would work for the shirt he had almost given up on. Like many homeowners, he had searched for answers before, but found too much conflicting information. Some recommendations suggested using simple household items, while others promoted specialized products. The challenge was knowing which advice was actually reliable. During the testing process, Emily noticed that successful cleaning was not just about the product being used. The method of application played an equally important role. Timing, pressure, and patience all affected the final result. A careful approach often performed better than a rushed attempt. One of the most interesting discoveries came when Emily compared methods that focused on removing the ink gradually rather than forcing it away immediately. The results showed that gentle and controlled techniques could make a significant difference. This was a reminder that cleaning is often about understanding how a stain behaves instead of simply trying to cover it up. As the experiments continued, Emily moved closer to identifying the method that created the most noticeable improvement. Some techniques were eliminated because they were inconsistent. Others showed potential but needed adjustments to work properly. The testing process revealed that finding the right solution required more than following a random online tip. It required observation and understanding. By the end of the first round of comparisons, Emily had gathered valuable information. She had discovered which common approaches were worth considering and which ones homeowners should avoid. But one final test remained. The next step would focus on the method that showed the most promise and examine exactly why it worked better than the others. The answer would reveal a simple but important lesson. The best cleaning solutions are not always the ones people expect. They are the ones that combine the right technique with a clear understanding of the problem. After several rounds of testing, Emily Carter was ready to focus on the method that showed the most promising results. She had compared different approaches carefully, paying attention to how each one affected the ink mark and the material underneath. What she discovered was that successful stain removal was not about using the strongest option available. It was about choosing the right process and following each step carefully. Emily began the next test by preparing the stained fabric and making sure everything was ready before starting. She explained that rushing into the cleaning process was one of the biggest reasons people were disappointed with their results. A good method required patience, attention, and a clear understanding of what was happening during each stage. Michael Anderson watched closely as Emily demonstrated the technique on the shirt that had once seemed impossible to restore. The first step was to approach the stain carefully instead of immediately trying to remove it with force. Emily explained that the goal was to lift the ink gradually while protecting the fabric. This small change in mindset made the entire process more controlled and predictable. As the method continued, the difference became easier to notice. The dark mark that had stood out before began to become less visible. The result was not created by one dramatic action, but by a series of simple steps performed correctly. This was exactly why Emily believed many people struggled with cleaning challenges. They often searched for a quick fix, but ignored the importance of technique. During the demonstration, Emily pointed out another important detail. Different materials can respond differently to cleaning methods. A technique that works well on one type of fabric may require adjustments on another. This is why testing on a small hidden area first is always a smart choice before treating a noticeable stain. Michael realized that this approach was different from the advice he had seen before. Instead of promising instant results, Emily focused on a realistic method that homeowners could actually follow. The process was simple enough for everyday situations but effective because it was based on understanding rather than guessing. As the experiment continued, Emily compared the treated fabric with the original stained sample. The improvement was clear. The method had not relied on expensive equipment or complicated steps. It showed that the right knowledge could make a difficult cleaning problem much easier to handle. The biggest lesson from the test was not just about removing ink. It was about changing the way people approach household problems. When something seems impossible to fix, the first reaction should not always be to replace it. Sometimes the solution comes from learning the correct process. Emily's experiment proved that careful steps, proper timing, and patience could create results that many people never expected. But she knew one more challenge remained. A good cleaning method should not only work in one situation. It should also perform well on different materials and everyday items. The next stage would reveal whether this technique could truly become a reliable solution for households everywhere. After proving that the tested method could create noticeable results on the original fabric sample, Emily Carter wanted to answer another important question. Would the same approach work on different materials and everyday household items? A solution is only truly useful when people can trust it in real situations. That meant testing the method beyond one shirt and seeing how it performed across different types of fabric. Emily prepared several common materials that people often find in their homes. She tested cotton fabric, denim, and other everyday textiles because these are the items most likely to encounter accidental ink marks. Her goal was not to claim that every material would react exactly the same way, but to understand how the technique could be adjusted depending on the surface being treated. The first test involved a cotton fabric similar to a regular t-shirt. Emily explained that cotton is one of the most common materials in households, which made it an important place to begin. The process followed the same careful steps she had already tested. Instead of rushing, she focused on consistency and observation. The results showed that the method continued to perform well when applied correctly. Next, Emily moved to denim. Many people worry about cleaning denim because they do not want to damage the appearance or texture of their favorite jeans. This test showed why understanding the material matters. The same basic principles applied, but patience remained the most important factor. Michael Anderson followed the results closely because he realized that the value of a cleaning method came from how practical it was for real life. A technique that only worked under perfect conditions was not enough. Homeowners needed something they could realistically use when unexpected stains appeared. During the testing process, Emily also discussed an important safety step. Before applying any cleaning approach to a visible area, it is always a good idea to test a small hidden section first. This simple habit helps protect valuable items and prevents unwanted surprises. The experiment also revealed another interesting point. The effectiveness of a cleaning method does not always depend on using more product or spending more money. Often, the biggest difference comes from applying the right technique with the right timing. Many people believe stronger solutions automatically create better results, but Emily's test showed that careful application often matters more. As she compared each material, Emily recorded the differences and looked for patterns. She wanted viewers to understand not only what to do, but why the method worked. Knowing the reason behind each step makes it easier to adapt the process to different situations. By the end of the material testing stage, Emily had gained even more confidence in the approach. The results showed that the method was not just a one-time success. It could become a useful option for many common household situations when used properly. However, Emily knew there was still more information homeowners needed. Even the best cleaning method can fail if certain mistakes are made during the process. The next step would focus on the habits people should avoid and the simple choices that can make the final result much better. After testing the cleaning method on different materials, Emily Carter wanted to focus on another important part of the process. Even the most effective technique can produce disappointing results if common mistakes are made along the way. Understanding what not to do is just as important as knowing what steps to follow. Emily explained that many people accidentally make ink stains harder to remove because they react too quickly. The first mistake is immediately rubbing the stain with strong pressure. While this may feel like the right thing to do, it can spread the ink further into the material. Instead of lifting the mark, aggressive rubbing can make the affected area larger and more difficult to treat. A more controlled approach usually creates better results. Another common mistake is waiting too long before taking action. Fresh stains are often easier to handle because the ink has not had as much time to settle into the fabric. This does not mean older stains are impossible to treat, but they may require more patience and careful attention. Michael Anderson realized that this was one of the reasons his first attempt had failed. He had focused on removing the mark quickly without understanding how the stain interacted with the fabric. Emily also warned against using too many different products at the same time. Some people believe that combining several cleaning solutions will create a stronger result, but this can make the process unpredictable. A simple method used correctly is often more reliable than a complicated mixture of different products. During her testing, Emily noticed another pattern. Many people give up too early because they expect immediate results. They apply a method once, see that the stain has not disappeared completely, and assume it does not work. However, effective cleaning often requires following the process carefully and allowing enough time for each step to work. Patience can make a significant difference. Another important point Emily shared was the importance of knowing the material before starting. A fabric item, furniture surface, or personal belonging may require a different level of care. What works well for one item may not be suitable for another. Taking a moment to understand the surface can help protect the item while improving the chances of success. As Emily continued explaining the process, Michael noticed that the biggest lesson was not about one specific cleaning product. It was about making better decisions. The right timing, the right technique, and the right amount of patience were the real factors behind the results. Many household problems become easier when people stop searching for the fastest solution and start using a smarter approach. By avoiding these common mistakes, homeowners can improve their chances of removing ink stains successfully. Emily's experiments showed that a reliable cleaning method is not based on luck. It comes from understanding the problem and following proven steps. With the mistakes identified, the next stage would reveal the final comparison and the overall results that showed why this approach became the most practical option for everyday situations. After identifying the mistakes that can affect ink stain removal, Emily Carter moved to the next stage of her experiment. She wanted to focus on a question many homeowners ask before trying any cleaning method. How can you prevent a small stain from becoming a permanent problem? The answer was not about reacting with panic. It was about making better choices from the very beginning. Emily explained that preparation is one of the most overlooked parts of household cleaning. Many people only think about solutions after a stain appears, but having the right habits before an accident happens can make the entire process much easier. One of the most important habits is acting quickly while staying calm. When an ink mark appears, the first goal is to avoid making the situation worse. Instead of immediately scrubbing the area, homeowners should take a moment to understand what material has been affected and choose a careful approach. Michael Anderson realized that this simple change in thinking could save many of his favorite items. Before following Emily's advice, he usually reacted without a plan. Now he understood that rushing often created more problems than the original stain. Emily also shared that proper storage and everyday organization can help reduce unexpected accidents. Keeping pins in secure places, checking pockets before washing clothes, and creating simple routines can prevent many common ink-related problems. These small habits may seem insignificant, but they can save time and effort in the long run. During her testing, Emily noticed another valuable lesson. Prevention and cleaning are connected. The same understanding that helps remove stains also helps people avoid them. When homeowners know how materials react and why certain mistakes cause problems, they become better prepared for future situations. Another important point was choosing realistic expectations. Not every stain will disappear instantly, and not every material will respond in exactly the same way. A successful cleaning approach requires patience and attention. This mindset helps people avoid frustration and make better decisions throughout the process. Emily wanted viewers to understand that cleaning is not about finding a magical shortcut. It is about learning simple principles that can be applied again and again. A thoughtful approach often creates better results than trying random solutions without understanding how they work. As the experiment continued, Emily reviewed everything she had discovered so far. She had tested different techniques, compared materials, identified common mistakes, and learned how small changes in behavior could improve results. The journey showed that removing ink stains was not just about one moment of cleaning. It was about having the right knowledge before, during, and after the problem appears. With all the lessons collected, Emily was ready for the final evaluation. The next step would bring everything together by comparing the original stain with the final result and showing why this tested approach became the most practical option for everyday homes. After completing the different tests and learning from each stage of the process, Emily Carter was ready to review the final results of her experiment. The goal was never just to remove one ink mark from one item. The goal was to discover a practical method that everyday homeowners could understand and use with confidence. She placed the original stained fabric next to the treated sample and compared the difference carefully. The transformation showed an important lesson about household cleaning. A problem that first appeared difficult could become manageable when the right steps were followed. Michael Anderson looked at the results and realized that the biggest change was not only in the appearance of the fabric. It was in the way he approached unexpected problems at home. Before this experiment, he believed that a small accident meant the item was probably ruined. After watching Emily's process, he understood that knowledge and patience could make a significant difference. Emily explained that successful cleaning is often a combination of several simple choices. Acting at the right time, avoiding common mistakes, understanding the material, and following a tested process all work together. No single step creates the entire result. Instead, each part of the method supports the next one. During the final review, Emily also compared the tested approach with the random methods many people try first. She explained that quick solutions often fail because they focus only on the visible mark instead of understanding the nature of the stain. A better approach considers the surface, the timing, and the technique. This way of thinking can be applied to many other household challenges beyond ink stains. Another important discovery from the experiment was that expensive products are not always the answer. Many people assume that a higher price means better performance, but Emily's testing showed that proper technique often matters more. A simple and carefully followed process can sometimes create better results than a complicated solution used incorrectly. As Emily finished documenting the experiment, she reflected on everything learned throughout the journey. The process began with a common household frustration, but it revealed valuable lessons about patience, preparation, and making informed choices. The ink stain became an example of a larger idea. Problems become easier when people understand how to solve them instead of simply reacting. Michael decided that he would approach future cleaning challenges differently. Instead of immediately giving up or searching for random answers, he would first understand the situation and choose a thoughtful method. Emily hoped viewers would take away the same lesson. The purpose of the experiment was not to promise perfection in every situation. It was to provide a realistic and useful approach that could help people protect their belongings and feel more confident when accidents happen. With the final results confirmed, only one question remained. What was the simple rule that homeowners should remember whenever they face a difficult ink stain in the future? The answer would bring together everything Emily discovered and create a lasting cleaning habit that anyone could follow. After reviewing the complete experiment, Emily Carter returned to the most important lesson she discovered throughout the process. Removing an ink stain was not about finding a secret trick that worked instantly. It was about understanding the situation, choosing the right approach, and following each step with care. A simple mistake at home does not always mean something needs to be replaced. With the right knowledge, many everyday problems can be handled in a smarter way. Emily explained that the first and most important rule is to stay calm when an ink stain appears. A rushed reaction often leads to poor decisions. Instead of immediately scrubbing or trying several random solutions, homeowners should first look at the material, consider the condition of the stain, and choose a method that matches the situation. This small change in thinking can create much better results. Michael Anderson reflected on how different his approach had become. Before the experiment, he believed that ink stains were among the most frustrating household problems because they seemed difficult to fix. After seeing Emily's testing process, he understood that the challenge was not the stain itself. The challenge was not knowing the correct way to handle it. Emily also emphasized the importance of learning from each experience. Every material, every situation, and every stain can be slightly different. That is why patience and observation are valuable skills in home care. Instead of searching for a quick answer every time, people can build a better understanding of how everyday items respond to different situations. The experiment also showed that effective cleaning does not need to be complicated. Many people spend time looking for expensive products or unusual solutions, but often the biggest improvement comes from using a reliable process correctly. Good results are created through preparation, careful steps, and consistency. As Emily completed her final notes, she looked back at the journey from the first difficult stain to the final comparison. What started as a small household problem became an opportunity to learn a useful lesson about problem solving. The ink stain was no longer just a frustrating mark. It became an example of how the right information can change the way people handle challenges. Michael decided to keep these lessons in mind for future situations. He knew that accidents would continue to happen, but he also knew that being prepared made those moments much easier to manage. Emily hoped viewers would remember the same idea. A household solution is not only about removing a mark. It is about gaining confidence and understanding that many problems can be solved with the right knowledge. The most valuable habit is simple: act carefully, choose wisely, and trust a method that has been tested. With this mindset, an unexpected ink stain becomes less stressful and more manageable. The real success was not just seeing a cleaner surface. It was learning a practical approach that could help homeowners make better decisions every day.